Hi everyone, and welcome to this week's episode of Spotlight. In the studio today we've got Stefan Swart. Welcome to the studio, Stefan.
Great for being here.
Right, so Stefan Swart is a full-time mixing engineer and producer, working on a number of different genres like country, gospel, pop rock, and heavy rock. Throughout his career as a producer and audio engineer, Stefan has produced and mixed songs for major artists such as Dan Patlansky, Nathan Smith, Retief Burger, Charlie Finch, Joe Niemand, and Freddie Vessels. So, Stefan, where did your interest in music originate?
I loved music from a really young age. I remember when my dad played acoustic guitar in the room, I jammed with him with a tennis racket. And I listened different kind of music. My dad, Cliff Richard's albums and old 60s rock and roll. And my dad taught me 4 chords when I was around 12 years old. And then the rest was basically history. I taught myself for the rest of high school, played all the heavy music that all the boys that stage played. And at that stage, I actually wanted to be a session guitar player because my dad wanted me to study something. So I thought I'll go to the tech and study guitar, but I spoke to other musicians as well and people in the industry that said there will always be a better guitar player. So when I was 16 years old, I played around on my PC with Cakewalk Pro Audio and cutting up samples to program drums. I want to record myself, my own music. And I like the idea of that as well. So I studied sound engineering for 2 years while getting guitar lessons from Luke van der Merwe, who played in Noot vir Noot, just to get a little bit more skill in certain areas of my guitar playing and sight reading and stuff like that. After I studied, I taught a little bit of guitar for little kids to pay the rent and stuff like that. So I taught guitar for kids a little bit, and I got into the industry through people playing at churches, and then somebody else saw me, so I played for them, and then they asked me to play for someone else, and it snowballed basically. So I got into the industry as a guitar player. And then after a few years, I was still doing my own thing with mixing and trying to record some people. And then a band called Anders asked me to mix their first album. And then everything started happening from that stage as a mix engineer and an engineer. Yeah.
All right, so from then until now, what are you currently busy with?
Well, I'm busy with different artists and small projects. Some people don't know, other people, well-known people. So I think next week or 2 weeks time I'll start mixing Jonathan Paper. Dan Patlansky produced it with him. And this is going to be like blues, rock, big sounding stuff, so I'm really excited to do that. And yeah, there's other small projects that I'm busy as well. Some producing, some mixing. Depends on what people want me to do.
So, Stefan, you've got a mixing room. So, what sort of gear do you use on a daily basis and that you can't live without?
The piece of gear I can't live without is my reference monitors. It's Amphions 118s. I bought them last year and it's a life-changing experience. So I mix through those monitors. I have a Mac Pro setup, the trash can, and running Pro Tools HD Native with thousands of plugins. I think these days it's a level playing field with all the plugins and the manufacturers that makes incredible software. I think like guys like Andrew Sheps is completely in the box as well, so you don't need a big SSL to mix through these days. So different plugins, UAD, sound toys, waves, whatever I need that for that specific instrument. And like I said, the Amphions, it's incredible how they translate. What you hear in the studio afterwards in the car, it sounds basically the same. So yeah.
Cool.
Mm.
So give us a highlight and a low light of your career so far.
The highlight for me was actually last year. I got the call from Dan Peklansky's manager. There was actually a mix-off in the beginning to get 4 mix engineers in the country to mix one of his songs, and he'll choose the best one. And in the end, I got the job, so it was incredible for me to do rock again, because rock these days is a bit, sometimes you don't get to work with rock musicians so much anymore. And it's an international CD or album, so that was a really big thing for me. The low one was, I think a few years ago, I got to mix a project for an artist, and I was basically finished with it, and I sent the mixes to them, and after the weekend I thought I'm going to do some tweaks for the mixes. Never heard of them again.
Wow.
So that was just, for me, it was like, can I mix, can I do the job? It
How
was
did you
like,
deal with that?
I tried to get hold of the people, and it was really difficult, but at this stage I had to forget about it and just go on with my life. Yeah.
And what would you say, what was the main idea behind the lesson you've learned out of that?
I think for me at that stage was, I think you as a musician or an artist, I think won't fit in everywhere. I think you can't be the best at everything in every area. So that was a thing for me that I said, I made a choice that I'm not so good at that certain genre or something like that. It's fine, I don't have to do that. So yeah.
So for younger people coming into the industry now, what advice would you give them?
I think they must work really hard at their craft and put the hours in. I think that's people will see it in the end, how the mixing or the production or the musicianship will grow. They will see that in you, and I think they will choose you to do the project or something like that. But I think kids today, the internet's so full of information, and you can learn so much. Years ago when I studied or did music, YouTube wasn't there, so I need to get information from other places. So I think just learn and learn. I think you'll never stop learning to be better at your craft, and get to know people in the industry. I think that's a big one. Is I think sometimes the people that you know will help you to get in the industry, and I think be open-minded about certain things. Yeah.
So Stefan, if people want to connect with you, if they want to work with you, how can we get hold of you?
I've got a website, stefanswart.com. And there's a section on the website that somebody can contact me and ask me anything that they want to ask. And then we can talk about whatever they want. I always say to people, don't let the budget thing hold you back. Some people think, no, this guy will be too expensive, I'm not going to ask him. I think I'm always open to negotiate. I think that's one misconception people have in our industry is, no, that guy's too busy, I'm not going to call him. And a matter of fact, he's maybe sitting at home in front of the TV, not have something to do. So yeah, I think contact me on my website.
I think it's also a matter of not being penny wise pound foolish. Is
yes,
to get guys that can actually do the job properly, and that would in turn cost you less in the long run.
Exactly.
To carry on with stuff that doesn't really work.
Yeah, on that subject, last year I had a project as well that people tried to cut corners in the beginning and try to record something for a little bit cheaper. And when I got the project to mix it, I told them we can't use these tracks, we need to go re-record it. So in the end, they went to re-record it. paid for a studio for another musician to redo everything, and then I had to edit the stuff as well, and then the mix. I think the project was almost double as in the beginning. So yeah, I think that's worth it in the end.
So cool, right? So if you want to connect with Stefan, go check it out in the description below. Also remember to download our brand new ebook. It'll also be attached in the description below. And as always, thanks for watching.